Widgets is a collection of digital gadgets that are designed to help you. It's been an interesting couple of years in macOS land, as Apple removed Dashboard and then replaced it with Notification Center widgets. The advantage and disadvantage of a Notification Center widget is that it's glanceable. It's not meant to be a mini app. However, the Widgets app is exactly that. The widgets in the Widgets app are meant to be interactive and clickable. The problem with the Widgets app is that it's technical and it's complicated. It's like a wristwatch with 100 dials. To solve that problem, this tutorial video was created. It explains in significant detail how to use the Widgets app. It's like a visual instruction manual. Photics TV is a tech variety channel, and part of that content is making useful guides for macOS software. So, it's only natural that the Widgets app be properly explained. This is the longest Photics TV video so far. It's also important to mention the sibling app to the Widgets app. It's called Apparatuses, which is very similar to its macOS counterpart. Apparatuses is just the iOS version. In other words, it's widgets for iPad, iPhone, and iPod Touch. So, most of the topics discussed in this video apply to both apps. The first step is to purchase it from the Mac App Store. It's currently only available in the United States. Unfortunately, there are several issues with taking this app internationally. But once the app is downloaded, Widgets launches like a typical macOS app. However, you might be interested in two options that can be accessed from the dock. One is Keep in Dock, and the other is Open at Login. The first option keeps the app in the dock even when the app isn't launched. Personally, I like to keep the app all the way to the right side of the dock. I'm frequently using this app, so I like to know exactly where to click it to use it. Although, the app can be shown and hidden with the F12 key. The second option is to launch the app at startup. The app was designed to launch quickly. It's also very useful throughout the day. You might check the weather in the morning, use the calculator in the afternoon, and make a reminder at night. The app can do a lot. But also, the app gives you the freedom to customize its appearance. You can access the general settings in the Settings pane. At the top left, there's a white and black icon. That is how you can access the Settings pane. The General Settings section is located at the top of the Settings pane. Click the text to expand that section. The first option is the border radius. Perhaps you like rounded corners, or perhaps you don't. You can move the slider left or right to suit your preferences. I like rounded corners, but not too extreme, so I usually leave it somewhere in the middle. As you change the option, you can see the widgets updating dynamically. Even certain elements of those widgets update accordingly. As an example, look at the play and skip buttons in the audio player widget. They change their location based on the border radius setting. They also change the roundness of their corners. You can even see this in the album artwork image. The next setting is the border width. Perhaps you like borders, or perhaps you don't. That's okay. You can customize the appearance of borders with this setting. The range goes as high as 15 pixels. I doubt that's a popular setting, but that's your decision. You get to decide the thickness of the borders, or no border at all. The Widget Margin setting allows you to determine the space around the widgets. The range is from 0 pixels to 30 pixels. Modern design has lots of spacing, but this app is flexible. Maybe you're using a smaller screen where space is at a premium. Or maybe you like to have the widgets off to the side, where lots of spacing isn't a good idea. That's why this setting was included. The spacing depends a lot on your use case. So it's great that the Widgets app is so customizable. Before addressing the zoom setting, let's look at the zoom target setting. There are two options here, everything and widgets only. It can be highly distracting if you're trying to adjust the zoom setting while everything is expanding or contracting. So, this setting restricts the zooming to what matters most, the widgets themselves. But again, that's up to you. Maybe you want the settings pane to be huge, too. That's totally okay. The app lets you decide. The zoom setting allows the widgets to be expanded up to 2.5 times their original size. This is great for visibility. If you or someone you know has vision problems, the larger size might be helpful. However, it's more than that. Perhaps you're making a presentation, or perhaps you want to show what's on your screen to someone sitting on the other side of the room. That's when zoom can be very handy. The Weather Widget is an excellent way to showcase the zoom feature, as the weather icons are vector graphics. They can scale, but still stay nice and sharp. Zoom is also great for the slide puzzle widget, as you can make the widget nice and big. This could also be handy if you're tiling your windows, as Widgets works in split screen mode. You could have a giant calculator on one side and a web browser window on the other. The general idea is that the Widgets app lets you customize the appearance. This is especially true with the colors, as you can select a color theme for the app. There are 7 to choose from. Angelic is the default theme. This is also the light mode theme. It's mostly a bright color scheme with orangey highlights. Cotton Candy is a reddish pink theme. Grassy is a greenish theme. Lila is a purple theme. Midnight is the dark mode theme. Minimalist is the high contrast white theme with a light gray background. And Niebieski is a bluish theme. Niebieski means blue in Polish, and Lila means purple in German. What's extra nice about the color theme is that it could be used to match the coloring of your Mac. Did you buy a green iMac? Well, the Widgets app can be green too. If you select Auto, the Widgets app will use the Angelic theme in light mode and the Midnight theme in dark mode. You can change your Mac's appearance in the General section of the System Preferences. There you can choose from Light, Dark, and Auto. So, if you select Auto as the theme in the Widgets app, and you select Auto for your Mac's appearance, the two will change simultaneously between day and night. The next general setting is the Scrollbar setting. By default, all scrollbars are shown. But perhaps you want to maximize the space, or perhaps you don't like the look of the scrollbars. You can hide them with the Hide Main and Hide All settings. The main scrollbars are the ones for the settings pane and the whole section of widgets. Those two are the biggest. Using the All setting hides the scrollbars in the widgets too. Even if the scrollbars are hidden, what can scroll will still scroll. This is great if you have a mouse wheel or if you can use the scrolling gesture on a trackpad. However, scrollbars may hide automatically if they're not necessary. This can happen on large enough displays where scrolling isn't necessary. Personally, I like to hide the scrollbars, at least the main ones, as I prefer to have the extra space. But by default, they're turned on, as this can help newer users to get acquainted with the app. The final general setting is Time Format. This will switch times from standard or military. If you prefer a 24-hour clock, then the military option was made for you. Speaking of clocks, now we can move on to the first widget, the clock. It's a pretty standard clock. It shows the time in 2 ways, analog and digital. The clock has big rounded corners at the top to make it look like a traditional clock. But also, that extra space makes room for the settings toggle button. That's why I like to keep the clock at the top. This is where we can introduce general widget settings. If you don't like the clock at the top, you can use the order option to select a new position. The other widgets will automatically reorder based on your selection. Almost every widget has a title, which can be clicked to bring up additional settings. Typically, these options are duplicated in the settings pane. If you click the clock section, you can see the settings for the clock width and clock color. Since the clock doesn't have a title, you can access the settings directly from the widget by clicking the clock cap. Each widget has a width setting. However, to keep things from getting too cluttered, this setting has a dual purpose. If you set the width to none, it will hide the widget. None is one of up to 5 widget width settings. The clock and slide puzzle widgets are square widgets, so they don't have the additional settings. Those other widget width settings, they are medium, wide, and auto. Square means that the widget will maintain a 200 by 200 pixel shape. All widgets are always 200 pixels high, but the width may vary in size for widgets capable of expanding. If medium is selected, the widget will grow to a maximum of 300 pixels wide. If wide is selected, the widget will grow to a maximum of 400 pixels wide. However, if the space is not available, the widget will not expand to the full width. I usually leave the widget width setting at auto, as I typically view the app as a column of widgets. But if you like rows, then customizing the width of the widgets could get the layout that you're looking for. Widgets can also have their own color theme. This can be set with the Widget Color option. These are the same color choices as the main theme setting. However, the colors will be darker when the main widget theme is using the Midnight Dark Mode theme. Setting a custom color for a widget is a great way to highlight frequently used widgets. Next up is the Calendar Widget. This is great for quickly seeing the days of the week. However, you can use the arrows to move the calendar forward or backwards in time. January 2022. Happy New Year! The Weather Widget starts with entering a zip code. Because this app respects your privacy, the app functions in a fairly unique way. The weather data is from the National Weather Service through the website weather.gov. The data is fetched based on a latitude and longitude location. However, using GPS is too precise for this application. So, a more general location is used instead. By entering your zip code, it is converted to a centralized point in the area. This zip code/location data is from the US Census. It is already stored in the app. If your zip code is not available, you can use the Photics.com contact form to request that the missing United States zip code be added. The data was recently updated with the 2020 census data, so it should be more reliable than before. Also, it's important to note that this particular element is scrollable. Additional widget settings are included below. Once you enter a valid 5-digit zip code, the weather data should load. Most of the widgets in this app work offline. This is one of the few instances where the app requires internet access. That's because this is live data. You can see the upcoming weather forecast. Clicking a day in either the day or night section will scroll the widget to the relevant text. The National Weather Service does a great job. I really like this information. In particular, I find the wind speed information to be very handy. The Weather Widget can show weather information for the current day and up to 6 days into the future. However, the widget needs to be wide enough to show the full forecast icons and temperatures. The Calculator widget is a standard calculator. However, it has some useful features. First, there's a back button. If you mistype a particular character, you don't have to retype the whole number. Next, the memory is displayed. The previous number is shown above the current number. To clear the memory, press the Clear button twice. That's the button with the big letter C. Pressing the Clear button just once clears the main number. For negative numbers, use the Negate button. This can turn a positive number into a negative number, or a negative number into a positive number. In the settings, there's a Calculator Buttons option. The choices are Standard and Scientific. If you're not sure what a specific button does, there are help tips. Just hover the cursor over a button, and text should appear soon after. The top row of scientific buttons are squared, cubed, and x to the power of y. The second row of scientific buttons are square root, cube root, and x to the y root. The third row is sine, cosine, and tangent. The final row is the degrees radians toggle, e, the mathematical constant, and pi. The Calculator widget is very handy for quick math. You don't have to press the on-screen buttons. You can use the keyboard too. By default, the calculator has the attention of the keyboard. But if not, if you were previously typing in a different widget, simply click the calculator to make it active again. You can see this by looking at the sibling widget, the Quick Calculator. When typing on the keyboard, the numbers only appear in one widget, not both widgets. That's why it's important to click which calculator you want to work with. There were many requests for multiple widgets, most commonly the calculator. That's why the second calculator mode was introduced. What's unique about this calculator is that it can show the recent history of calculations. I figured that the main reason why people wanted multiple calculator widgets was so that they could get access to previously calculated numbers. So hopefully that helps out. Also, the clear button has 3 levels here. Pressing it once clears the main number, pressing it twice clears the memory, pressing it 3 times clears the history. Additionally, the Quick Calculator has a second mode, Quick Percentage. This is quite useful for quickly calculating percentages. The way this widget works is that it remembers the order in which the fields were used, number 1, number 2, and number 3. So as long as you have 2 numbers to work with, the widget should be able to calculate the third. The Audio Player widget is a quick way to play music that is on your computer. The widget looks for music files in your local iTunes library. To be more technical, it's looking for M4V, M4A, MP3, and Media Kind Type 2 files. Pressing the play button brings up the default play mode. The Widgets app might start playing songs that you forgot you had on your computer. That's why there's a handy playlist dropdown. It's accessible in the Widget Settings section. This option grabs the playlists that are shown in the macOS Music app. Some playlists might not work. As an example, in my playlists I have live streaming stations that play 1980s and 1990 songs. Those don't work with the widget. However, my local 1980s songs play just fine. My synthwave playlist works too. Once a song starts playing, useful information is displayed in the widget. Song name, album name, and artist name are shown. An image of the album cover, when available, is also shown. To save space, the album name is hidden when the widget is too small. The controls are simple. There's a play-pause button and a skip button. The World Clock widget is a great way to see the current time in different time zones. By default, the times for New York, Warsaw, Los Angeles, London, Honolulu, and Hong Kong are shown. However, the widget will show fewer cities if there's not enough available space in the widget. There are 46 cities to choose from. This can be managed from the widget settings or from the World Clock section of the settings pane. The unit converter is a very popular widget. At least I use it a lot to figure out the difference between things like kilometers and miles. There are 3 main options for the unit converter widget. First, there's a field to enter a value. Next, there are 2 menus. The one on the left is for choosing the family of units that you're working with. There are 6 options: area, length, temperature, time, volume, and weight. The second option is for choosing the specific type of measurement that you're working with. As an example, if your original measurement is in feet, then select the length and feet options. This automatically converts the value into other units in that family of measurements. If you change the main number, the other values automatically update. The Dictionary widget is handy for looking up the meaning of words. Definitions are separated by the type of word: adjective, adverb, noun, and verb. The dictionary data is from Princeton University's WordNet 3.0. Also, by typing the word Photics in the dictionary, you can find a little joke in the app. Similar to the Dictionary widget is the Thesaurus Widget. This is useful for finding words with similar meaning. Some antonyms are also included. A word can be clicked to quickly find synonyms for that word too. The Thesaurus Widget also uses the WordNet 3.0 data. The Bible Widget is for quickly looking up Bible verses, searching the Bible, or just reading the Bible in general. The main view has 3 fields: book, chapter, and verse. The book field has an autocomplete feature, so if you type the letter G, Genesis appears first, as that is the first book of the Bible, but other books will appear in the list too. You can see that the letter G is highlighted in bold with a dotted underline. So, if the letters G, E are typed, you can see that only two options remain. If you press the Enter key, the first option is automatically selected, or you can simply click one from the list. In the chapter field, a number can be entered to select a specific chapter. The up and down arrow keys can be used to change the chapter. This is also related to the left and right arrow buttons located at the bottom of the widget. The right arrow moves ahead one chapter, the left arrow moves back one chapter. The text can be scrolled to find a specific verse, or the verse field can be used to jump to a specific verse. The up and down arrow keys also work in this field. While the traditional widget settings can be accessed by clicking the widget title, there is another mode for this widget. In the middle of the navigational row, there is a button with a cross icon. By pressing this button, you can access the Bible search. However, it's important to note the two radio buttons. The first option has the letters KJV, and the second option has the letters CPDV. The first stands for the King James Version of the Bible, while the second is the Catholic Public Domain Version of the Bible. The Catholic Public Domain Version uses modern English, while the King James Version uses Old English. Also, the Catholic version of the Bible has more books. Changing the option here will change which version of the Bible is used in the main mode. The search also uses the option selected. The results shown are clickable. Selecting a verse will return the widget to the main mode with the book, chapter, and verse automatically selected. However, the Home button is another way to return the widget back to the main mode. The Elements widget is very useful for chemists as it lists the elements that you'd find on the periodic table of elements. 118 elements are included. Detailed information for each element is also included, such as the chemical group, standard state, atomic mass, atomic radius, density, electron affinity, electron configuration, electronegativity, ionization energy, oxidation states, melting point, boiling point, or year discovered. The element data is from the National Center for Biotechnology Information, which was retrieved earlier this year. The Reminders widget plugs into Apple's Reminders. It's a quick way to display your iCloud reminders. At first start, the widget just displays some helpful text. It explains the functions of the buttons. The first button, the one with the checkmark icon, can show or hide completed reminders. The second button, the one with the double exclamation points, can sort reminders by priority. The third button sorts reminders by category. Press any one of these three buttons to activate the widget. On first use of contact data, a pop-up will appear. It says, Widgets app would like to access your contacts. Click the OK button to grant this permission. It's important to mention that Photics does not collect any personal information from the Widgets app. The fourth button on the Reminders widget is for creating a new reminder. A reminder listing in the widget can be expanded for additional information. There's also a link to open the reminder in Apple's Reminders app. The Contacts widget is a quick way to look up contact information. It uses the same data that's found in Apple's Contacts app. By default, the contact search is shown. You can change this with the widget setting. Scroll the window to show the additional settings. The option on Startup has two choices. Show Search is selected by default. The other option is Show All Contacts. Since I have actual contacts on this computer, I can show you how the widget works with generic data on the iOS version of this app. Apparatuses is being loaded via the Simulator app included with Xcode. See how nice that looks? I especially like the sticky letters, which was added in version 4 of the Widgets app. The Text-to-Speech Widget is great for reading text aloud. However, it does a little more than that. If you look at the widget settings, you can select a voice. The voices used are part of the macOS operating system. By default, it's Samantha, which is a United States English voice. That's the cool part. You can pick foreign language voices. This is great if you want to learn how to say something in a foreign language. There is another nice feature of the Text-to-Speech widget. If there is no text entered in the widget, pressing the play button will bring up a status report. This is nice default text to use for experimenting with the text-to-speech settings. The pitch and the rate of the voice can be changed, which can greatly alter the sound of the voice. The System Stats widget is a quick way to see useful technical information about your Mac. Most importantly is the thermal state. If I see the level increase unexpectedly, I immediately check to see which apps are causing trouble. I do this to help preserve the battery life of my laptop. It also alerts me to potential trouble. Unless I'm video editing or playing video games, my Macs are really good about staying cool, so if it starts running hot, that's usually not a good sign. This widget helps you to keep watch on that important stat. Also, the storage space is shown. It's important to leave enough space for your Mac to work. When editing videos, my hard drive can quickly fill up. Frequently seeing that stat helps me to keep things under control. The uptime stat is also useful, as it's a good reminder to restart the Mac. If my Mac seems to be acting a little sluggish, and that stat has a high number, then I usually just restart the Mac. While uptime is a badge of honor for things like web servers, I don't like to see my main Mac run too long without a restart. After 1 to 2 weeks is usually when I restart. Considering that I just upgraded to macOS Monterey recently, my current uptime is looking pretty good. No crashes. Nice! Additional information about your Mac can be found in the widget settings. This is a quick way to see the username, host name, language, platform, processor count, physical memory, and macOS version. The Web Widget is a collection of tools for web developers and web designers, although it can be useful in general. There are 3 main modes. The first mode is the color mode. This can be useful for selecting a web color. There are 3 sliders, red, green, and blue. This will return a web color value. If you prefer RGB, then just click the value display. The second mode is for converting text or files to base64. If you don't know what this is, then you probably don't need it. Basically, base64 is useful for embedding images directly onto a web page itself. However, it's important to mention that for large conversions, use the Select File option, as there's a 10,000 character limit on the text field. The third web mode is Keen Mini, which is based on another Photics app. Basically, this mode has 2 main attractions. The first is for looking up key codes. This information can be useful for web developers. To make this widget more useful to more people, mathematical fonts were included. These are extended characters in a font that look like pretty letters. By clicking the font button, you can type a message with decorative characters. This can be useful on social media or in text messages, where custom fonts are not allowed. You can make your message stand out with a custom look. These letters might not work everywhere. As an example, when writing the app listing description for the Keen app, I couldn't use these characters in the description, but I could use them in the comments. Anyway, that really neat feature in Keen is also available in the main Widgets app. It's a really nice way to send a message with more emotion. The Counter Widget also has 3 modes. The first mode is a stopwatch. This is great for keeping track of how much time has passed. I use it for cooking burgers on the grill. If I see 8 minutes, I know to flip them. If I already flipped them, then I know to eat them. But if you're doing laps, the lap button is a great option for keeping track of each one. The left column shows the length of the lap. The right column shows when the lap was completed from the time the counter was started. The next mode is a tally counter. This is handy for counting in increments of 1. The value can be increased or decreased. The reset button is for starting over from 0. While the stopwatch counts forward in time, the third mode counts backwards in time. It's a countdown timer. One of the unique features about this widget is the length of time. It can count down from just short of 61 days. That's a lot of time. Each little slider moves accordingly as the countdown changes. Once the countdown reaches 0, a notification with a gentle alert is triggered. To reset the timer, just move the sliders to where you want. Moving a slider automatically pauses the counter. The final widget in the main app is the slide puzzle. This game was popular in the 80s. the 1880s, back when apps were wooden. This is a fun little diversion. It's also especially challenging with the app icon as the puzzle image. However, you can change that in the Settings pane. In the Slide Puzzle section, the image can be either numbers or app icon. At the end of the settings list is the Reset Settings option. This will reset the internal app settings to default. This includes settings for the widget width, widget colors, widget order, widget settings, and general settings. One more thing before we move on to the Notification Center widgets. There's an Extras menu up at the top. This is a quick way to reach Photics.com. There's also a Quick Keys combo. By pressing Control plus Option plus Command plus the P key with the Widgets app active, the Photics.com website should launch in your default browser. If that seems like a lot of keys to remember, it's all three modifier keys and the letter P for Photics. The Widgets app also includes 4 Notification Center widgets: Calendar Grid, Daily Message, Periodic Table, and System Stats. They're glanceable companions to the main Widgets app. You can add a Notification Center widget by clicking the clock in the menu bar, then clicking the Edit Widgets button at the end. From there, you can select the Widgets section. That's where you can find the 4 Notification Center widgets from this app. If this sounds redundant, by excessively using the word widgets, you can tell the difference by looking for the app icon. From there, you can just drag and drop a widget onto the Notification Center. 3 of the 4 widgets support different sizes: small, medium, and large. The Daily Message widget has additional settings. You can select the Bible version, either the King James Version or the Catholic Public Domain version. Just right-click a widget and select the first Edit Widgets option. From there you can select the version. You can also choose to show or hide the widget's title bar. So that's the Widgets app. Hopefully this information helps you to use the Widgets app more effectively. If you have the app and you like it, leaving a friendly review on the App Store helps the app to grow. If you have questions about the app, you can leave a comment here, or you can use the contact form at Photics.com. Thanks for watching.